Hello, and welcome to Practical Intuition with Kay. This is the show where we are always working to help you choose from your heart and really tune out the pressures and the voices from the folks around you who might have something different to say than what you want about what you're doing and what you want in your life. I am Kay. I'm a coach, I'm an artist, I'm an adventurer, and I am so excited because I'm here today with a woman who has um made some changes in her life in recent years, and she's wonderful about sharing what this journey is like for her. She's also a friend. She is someone who I think of as a beloved colleague, who's just been such a fun part of my and an inspiring part of my journey. And so welcome Monique Giroux of flourishment.global, which is such a great name for a website. Hi.
Thank you. Hi, Kay. Thank you. I'm so excited. It's
Yeah.
great to be here.
Yeah. This is really, I feel like a long time coming. Um, and, just as we were getting started with talking about what we were going to talk about, I really love this because you're writing a book, and the book was going to end at a point that felt like a real high point on your journey from a little over a summer ago, I think, right? Like a little over a year ago. And you've been invited to extend that out to now, because what's happening now is it's sort of mirroring the beginning of your journey, right?
Mhm.
And I wonder if you could sort of take us into that a little. Anything you'd care to share about this journey for you would be amazing to hear.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Kay. Well, the book was actually, I don't know if you know this, downloaded in a silent retreat. On day 5, I was in a deep meditation and the entire book just appeared in my mind. And that was January of 2022.
Wow.
So I've been working on this book for quite a while, and the book is about all of the teachers along my spiritual path. And it ended with this Vipassana, and my teacher, who was Bhante Vimala Ramsey, he passed away earlier this year. Sadly, I feel so honored to have had an opportunity to learn from him and his teachings. But in that Vipassana, he taught me that you are your own teacher. Listen to your intuition. You have that inner guidance system. And so I've been working on this book for quite a while, and now I have a publisher. And I was originally ending the story with the decision to sell my home with my partner and travel the world. So a lot transpired from that silent retreat to getting to the point of making the decision to just kind of let go of all material things in our lives and just travel and work and see the world. And so the sale of our home happened a year ago, just over a year ago now. But my publisher said, no, you have to bring the reader to the present moment. So much has happened in that year. And what was really interesting was when they shared that feedback with me, I just happened to be here in Bali. And so I thought, okay, I'm happy to round out the story and bring the reader to the present day. And I realized actually this journey, my spiritual transformation, began here in Bali in 2019. I was here with my daughter. We were on a 10-day wellness tour. And at the end of those 10 days, I was just reflecting on how I was sleeping so well. And I could take a deep breath. And I realized that it was the first time I could take a deep breath without feeling pain in my chest.
Wow.
And that's when I realized I was living with anxiety every day. I couldn't breathe without feeling pain. And I made a commitment to myself here in Bali in 2019 that I would find a way to live my life. And I had 2 goals. I even had this on my Instagram for a good 18 months. I was on a quest to breathe deeply and find peace of mind.
Wow.
And that led me down this whole journey of just learning, absorbing as much information that I could. But ultimately it led to, the decision to leave a corporate role and sell the house and travel and to where I am today. So I love that I ended up rounding out this story from here in Bali.
Yeah, that's amazing. That feels like such a gift, like such a, I don't know if you feel this way, but I don't think there's any coincidences, basically. Coincidences are not coincidences.
Oh no, I have so many stories.
Yeah. Yeah.
Since I've started traveling, like the last 3 months, I've been traveling on my own, and that's a whole story in itself.
Mm.
But I'm very much being guided in where I go.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And what's happening is the people that I'm meeting along the way are, my father even said to me, like, isn't it amazing that you just happened to meet exactly the right person? And I said, it is amazing.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
amazing. But I
That
feel
is,
like it's all being divinely guided in some way. It's so beautiful.
yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. So before we get there, and I like, there's so much about this that is so thrilling. And I think what I'd really love to do is hear about, or if you would share with us a little bit about sort of pre 2019 or pre Bali, like what was your life like?
Mhm. I had a great job. I worked at a bank. I had an amazing team. But I think that it was stressful work. And in hindsight now, because I've done all this work on myself, I know a lot of the stress was pressure I was putting on myself,
Mm,
which is often the case, right? I think that, what I've learned is we cause our own suffering
yeah. Wow. Yeah.
with all in our mind and our thoughts and our outlook on life. And I didn't know that at the time. And so I was striving, always striving, always striving. And I've learned over just very recently, because I've done 2 retreats, which we'll talk about, 2 Buddhist retreats over the last 3 months.
Mm.
I've learned about this concept that Buddhists have called hungry ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
Heard of?
I've heard of Hungry Ghosts because of anime, because of graphic novels that my kids read. So yes, okay. But go on. Wow, this is really
Okay.
cool.
So they describe these hungry ghosts as creatures that have big, long necks, tiny little mouths, big stomachs, and they're constantly trying to fill themselves up,
Yeah.
but they can never fill themselves up.
Wow.
And because they don't love themselves.
Yeah.
And so they're filling themselves up with things like, for me in the corporate sector, motivated me was just accolades. I just wanted a tap on the shoulder,
Mm.
like, good job. Like I look back now and I think that's so sad that that's what I would work so hard,
Mm.
sacrificing, I think now, time with my daughter, time that
Mm.
I should have been more mindful with my daughter. Now I
Mm.
have these memories coming back that I feel really bad about, but it was always like that work phone call, that work email. And it was, what was the motivation for that working so hard all the time was just the accolades and wanting to be recognized and appreciated.
Mm.
Um, and I carried that into my relationships too. I've been married twice before, and it was always like seeking that attention and seeking that praise or seeking that instead of finding it within myself.
Mm.
And so,
Mm.
Thich Nhat Hanh, who was a Zen master, would say this, our world today, we are creating more and more hungry ghosts in our
Yeah.
society. And so I
Wow.
see that, I recognize that in myself. So, hindsight now, I did have kind of on paper, I had it all,
Yeah.
but I was so unhappy. It's like I could never fill myself up.
Yeah. I I mean, I just appreciate the depth of that for you, like the profoundness. It's reminding me of, so when I was about, I guess I was in my late 30s. So kids are young. We live in this home, which is, safe. And I mean, I think by a lot of world circumstances, quite expansive. And I remember one night the kids were running around. They were being very adorable and silly. And my partner of now 28 years, but then, however long ago that was, so maybe 15 years or something, very stable, very loving relationship, was out in the living room and I was doing dishes. And I remember having this thought. I'm looking out the window and I remember having this thought, is this all there is? And I felt so guilty for having the thought of like, and then immediately my brain crashed in with like, what are you like? Look at all that you have. Holy crap. How can you be so ungrateful? And I think it was not long after that when I lost the ability to walk, when I lost the ability to use my hands for, more than just a tiny fraction of what how most people's hands work. And like, I've realized now that those have been really some of the most profound lessons have come, and they've really been related to that moment of, is this all there is? Because the people around me started to, like, when we would get together with my friends, my high school friends, like the sisters of my heart, you know what I mean? And their partners and their children. And even when I couldn't use my hands, or especially that, like in the worst times for me, my husband would say, his name's Ben, he would say, you come alive when you're with your friends. And I would still feel like that I was denied that. Like you have to do it some other, go it alone kind of. I felt so unworthy of accepting support. And I think for me, that's been that journey. I don't know if any of that relates to, what you're talking about, but it feels very connected.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it's being able to be here now in this moment, in the present moment,
Yeah.
and um, accepting things for what they are, not for what you want them to be or what you think they should be. That's probably been the biggest shift for me lately.
Yeah.
Um, my 2 words for this year have been trust and surrender.
Oh, wow.
And I've added a third word that came out of the last silent retreat I was in, which was acceptance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Am I remembering that you climbed like a very big mountain? Was that a dream
Yeah.
that I had, or is that true?
Yes, I climbed Kilimanjaro in 2015 with a group of friends and some of my colleagues at the bank. And that was, I think that was an important experience
Mhm.
because it was in 2015 in a very different place in my life. I was kind of like beginning to realize how unhappy I was, but I didn't really understand why. And
Mhm.
the Kilimanjaro experience got me fit and active again,
Mhm.
which was, after having a daughter and a busy job, I was very, very out of shape. And so I was out on trails in the forest with my girlfriends on a regular basis. And that was just like therapy, honestly, the best therapy.
Yeah.
Um, but really what was most transformative about that experience was what happened after.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was meeting a Maasai family. So the Maasai are nomadic people who live in Africa, and we met a family we went on a safari, and then we had an opportunity to meet a family in Tanzania in the Serengeti.
Mhm.
And I realized that in North America, we have things all wrong.
Mhm.
They were a very joyful family. And even though did not have a lot of material things, so from a North American perspective, definition of happiness and success, you didn't see that.
Mhm.
but you saw smiles, joy, dancing, singing, love,
Yeah.
beauty.
Wow.
That experience is really what shifted something in me. And I came back from that trip and I made a lot of big decisions and changes in my life, and I started traveling with my daughter. I wanted my daughter to experience the world and how so much of the world is in reality compared to the bubble that we're in North America. And yeah, so she and I have been on all kinds of adventures together.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I think what's really coming to me is sort of how the lows of the sort of perceived lows of the valleys of our experience can really fuel the something better for us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think something else that, like, and we talked about this a little bit before hitting record, is like, I wonder how you feel about just the word roles, the roles that we play in our lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, this year has been quite challenging. It's kind of hit me in the face as far as roles and changes in roles. And then I went through an identity crisis because I left my job of 20 years. Mm-hmm. And sold my home. Mm-hmm. My daughter went off to university. Mm-hmm. My partner, Andrew, is off sailing around the world. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know who I was anymore. Like, how do I define myself now? It was like a real stripping away of every part of who I defined myself as being before. Someone would say, like, what do you do? It was easy for me to explain what I do. Mm-hmm. If someone asks me now, what do you do? I can't describe what I do. I'm doing a whole lot of different things that I love to do, but there's no like one easy, do you have a half an hour? Like, I'll tell you. Right? It's just not like I'm doing this. No, I'm doing about 10 different things. And I kind of doing things that I love to do while I'm traveling. But it's so not defined in a traditional way. So yeah, so that's how I feel about roles now. And now it doesn't matter anyway. Mm-hmm. What label you put on it. It's interesting. The last retreat I went to, the facilitator is Buddhist, and we actually talked about this because some of the participants in the retreat were really like trying to understand my being homeless, and they're like, we have to find a better word to describe you. Like, you're in Buddhism, they talk about the ascetic wanderer. So they kind of, the group kind of like that ascetic wanderer concept, or location independent. And then in the end, I thought, like, who cares? It doesn't matter. I'm almost like, I don't want to roll anymore. Yeah. It's just it's interesting, like this shift that I've been through, but it's been an adjustment, and it's taken a while to just accept that it's just I don't really care anymore.
That is so well said, right? Like, you can put whatever label you want on it. You can call it whatever feels comfortable for you. I'm good. And I think this is really interesting because the conditioning that we have in our lives, it's like I've been thinking a lot lately on how like a society reinforces itself. And so part of my journey has been, in fact, the reason that I even did I solo hiked across England in May of 2023, which is where this will be out in March-ish of 2024. So we're talking at the end of 2023. And it started for me because I was really struggling with like food and body and weight type challenges. And I love that you would say, you know, you were going through an identity crisis, because I didn't realize it, but that's what was happening for me too. And
Mhm.
coming to a point where, and this is legit how I live my life now, I'm friends with food. I'm friends with my body. I'm grateful for the opportunities. I feel like someone might look at my dinner of, I don't know, Weetabix and peanut butter, or my breakfast of salad, and be like, what? Like, who are you? And I'm like, you know, I'm me. It's really, you can take this however you want it. And I'm not moved by the conditioning. At least what I will say is I don't react to somebody else's sort of like, well, you should be doing it this way. In fact, what I've come to think is I'll add on in my head sometimes, like, because you're making me uncomfortable. And that's okay. Like, I'm not here to make other people comfortable. I'm here to live my life in a way that feels aligned. And as a result, what's really happened, I don't know if I'd love to talk about this a little bit with you too. What's really happened is I've become a very good role model for folks. Like, I'm not doing it. Did you ever read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy books?
I don't think I ever read it, but of course I've heard of it.
Yeah.
There was a TV show.
Oh, that's right. That's right. So there's a
Yeah.
character in it named Zaphod Beeblebrox. He is the president of the galaxy. And he is wicked egotistical, basically, like, is how he's portrayed. And it turns out, I don't want to give away too much of the plot, but it turns out he's got two heads. And one of his heads has information locked away in it that's really important. And like, that's the head that's making the decisions. And what they you know, you sort of learn that there's a whole structure here to make sure that he absolutely feels like he is the most important person in the universe. And because he feels that way, important things happen properly. I just think it's really, I think it's really like, we have it so backwards. We have it so wrong when we put ourselves last, yeah. So I think, you know, roles feels like it's leading for me to a curiosity about role modeling, and where that come, if that's a part of your journey at all, and where it comes from for you.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that if I were to, I mean, what I've been thinking a lot about, and I even went to a temple today that is specifically for clarity. So I went to see a healer a few weeks ago because in September I had COVID.
Mhm.
In October I had an infection, and when I came to Bali I had a gastrointestinal thing that a lot of people get when they come to Bali. But
Mm.
I just thought there's something with my immune system's a little bit shot. So I went to see this healer, and he was really interesting. Of course, went in a completely different direction. He did give me some advice on, he said, drink ginger, turmeric, lemongrass tea every day, which is what I've been doing since I've been here to boost my immune system.
Mm.
And he prescribed this specific temple where I went today. And honestly, it was just the most incredible experience, because I went early. I was the only one in the fountains area. You know, there's like a pool of water, and you go in each fountain and you say a prayer in each fountain. It was just beautiful.
Wow.
And I was, by the end of it, I don't know what, I was just so overwhelmed with gratitude
Mm.
and joy.
Wow.
And I just started crying. And there are kind of priests and healers and shamans that are kind of always around, and they just smiled at me, because I think this happens a lot. Just like a very kind smile, like, oh, you get it, like,
Yeah.
you've been moved by this experience. Like, the Balinese just want you to feel good being here,
Wow.
you know. And when they see someone having an experience, they're so happy to see that. The
Yeah.
magic of Bali is just so spiritual. I was very moved. And so anyway, to make a long story short, I still don't have clarity about what is my purpose here? Like, what do I do
Mm.
next? Yes, I'm working on a book. Yes, I do forest therapy. Yes, I'm a Reiki master. I feel like there's like, I'm still trying to figure out, I think there's more, and I'm trying to, you know, uncover what that is. But I think the best way to describe it is at the moment is just to be a lighthouse. A lighthouse is just
Mm.
there shining its light to let the boats know, you know, I'm here, be careful. It's just a light. I don't have to do anything. I'm just there shining my light. And whoever needs to see it will see it.
Wow.
And I think it's just kind of, it goes back to the, you know, always striving do to do something. And that image always reminds me it's okay to just be.
Wow. Right.
Mhm.
um, I'm gonna change my virtual background. Let's see if I can do this while we're in conversation.
Okay.
I
I have
like
a feeling there's a lighthouse coming.
right. Um, and yeah, there's how you add. And the reason I think this is special, like Monique, I don't think we've ever talked about this. Lighthouses for me are really, really special. And they always have been. And I think what you're saying is absolutely a part of it. Like it's so I had not thought of it in that way, but like so my husband and I in I guess this was so for the last 3 Novembers we happen to have been going to the same place on Cape Cod. We happen to be staying in the same place. We've really gotten to be friendly with the folks who uh, run. It's an Airbnb, and um, it's just been a delight to get to know them and hear their story about Cape Cod. And the first year, I remember basically never going outside after dark. It
Oh,
was in 2021. It was sort of COVID. It was like we were just remembering that like there's things outside that you like. For
wow.
me, the feeling was of I'm great during the day, but afraid at night.
Wow.
And if we fast forward to November 2022, I was like, are you kidding me? This is incredible.
Wow.
And one of the things that was really incredible was sitting on a beach at night called Coast Guard Beach and just being like, I was drawing, I was painting. And I
Oh,
was like, um, as I was painting, I was like, wow, this is really interesting. There's
oh,
so I just changed my background.
there it is. Well
Um,
done.
so
Beautiful.
I was like, this is really interesting. There's like cars keep coming around the bend in a really rhythmic way. And then I
Mhm.
realized that it wasn't cars coming around the bend in a really rhythmic way. It was Nauset light. And I was like, what? This is incredible. Like it's sort of I don't ever see lighthouses at night because I'm not out at night. And here I was. And then the other gift of that night was it was completely dark on the beach. Like you wouldn't have known that the sun was setting on the beach. The
Yeah.
moon was coming up, and there was this. I was walking along, and I was like, "Wow, there's this opening in the dune. I'll go see what that's about." And what happened was, I walked up the dune, and I walked up to Nauset Marsh, and the marsh was just gloriously lit with the brightest oranges, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing, and I just thought, "How is this like?" And I really felt so much gratitude just for the natural world and the ability to see and experience these things, these moments in the end. And so the lighthouse that I have behind me now is actually it's the easternmost lighthouse in the United States. It's called West Quoddy Head Light, and I was standing at the base of it uh, in 2022, and I was like, this is the cutest lighthouse in the entire world. So I decided to try to paint it, and this was the result.
Beautiful. I love it. It's beautiful.
And being a lighthouse for others, because what do lighthouses do? Right? They don't stride out into the sea and try to shepherd people, right? They don't try to claw people in with their decision about whether somebody is safe or not. They simply shine a light.
Mhm. Mhm. And whoever needs to see it will see it.
Yeah.
And I'm finding that, I think when I left my job at the bank, my boss at the time, I said to her, I don't know where I'm going. It's not like I'm leaving for another job. I just know it's time for me to go. And she said, you're going to save the world one person at a time.
Oh, wow.
And I thought that was very kind of her to say that. But and I don't know that I'm saving the world, but I feel like with every interaction I have, with every person I meet, there's an opportunity to be a light in some way. And one of the things I'm working on is not like trying to help. I wait for the invitation.
Yeah.
Which is against my character my entire life, because I always want to go in there and help people. And now I hang back a little bit and I wait for the invitation. And I've been having some, just even here in Bali, with some of the staff here, the local people that work at the villa where I'm staying. It's been incredible. One woman shared a story. She was in tears. We just started talking. She came up to me and she says, you're so calm. And I said, well, I wasn't before. It's taken me some work to be this way now. And so she was curious. So I shared the story. And then she shared that her daughter's been diagnosed with a rare form of diabetes. She's 5. She started to cry. She says, I can't sleep at night. I'm so worried. And the whole conversation about the energy of worry and things that might help her sleep, and to be here now. Breathing in, I'm aware that I'm breathing in. Breathing out, I'm aware that I'm breathing out. And now I see her and she's, asking questions about meditation and yoga nidra and all these. And it's just a conversation.
Yeah.
And I'm just finding that there's nothing that makes me happier than to, hear people's stories and be able to share maybe something that might help them. There's another waitress that is wanting to start her own business. And even my driver today that took me to the temple, his daughter is wanting to be a nurse. And I talked about scholarships. He had never heard of scholarships before. And like a quick Google.
Wow.
A Rotary Club scholarship for Bali, and I said, if you'd like, I can do a little bit more research, see what else is out there. And he was so thrilled. So now he's coming to meet me for lunch Saturday so I can meet his daughter. And it's just like, this is it. It's so simple. Like, it's just every time you meet someone, there's an opportunity to connect with them. One at a time.
I mean, so much is coming up for me. I'm not even sure if you knew at the time what you were doing for my son. One of our kids had always, as a child, before he was verbal, like, so 1 year old, able to wander around, but not able to really articulate or talk yet. And he would make these little, what I've come to think of as mandalas. I'm not sure how to pronounce that word, but anyway. How would you pronounce it, Monique? Just so that I
don't even know if I say mandalas.
Mandala. Okay, I'm going with that.
But some people say mandalas. Like,
yeah.
Doesn't.
Okay,
you call
mandala.
It what you want.
So
we know what you mean.
Exactly. Yeah. He used to make designs from grasses and stones and leaves, and inside the house we'd just find them. We'd come upon them made of markers and little round things, and and pieces of paper, and just completely random. You'd walk into a room and there'd be this mandala. And he, as like last year, he was going through a really hard time. Something was really off in his life and he was trying to figure it out. And I was just learning to not be a fixer, but instead to, like, not a worrier, but instead someone who has a lot of compassion and is really cheering for him on. I would be curious what your thoughts are on the differences between the feelings of compassion and worry, which is something I've been thinking a lot about lately. But anyway, so I shared with you, you had shared a beautiful mandala that you had made in Costa Rica. And I shared about Jay with you. And you made him a mandala and made a video of it. And it was so lovely to see him receive that. And it was just, he was just so full of joy.
Mm.
Like, and I remember a bird flew in at one point in the video. Do you
Oh
remember that?
yeah,
You
one
were,
of those blue jays. Yes,
yeah.
yes, yes.
And I think to watch someone that you love go through something really challenging, there can be more than one energy that we bring into that, right? And the energy of compassion and sort of cheering them on was really the energy that certainly I saw him receiving from your mandala. And yeah, I don't know, I really wanted to say thank you for that. It was really special
Well,
and helpful.
it was such a pleasure. Yeah, it was a pleasure. It's making those gratitude mandalas or forest art or nature art or gratitude altars, some people call them. It's a core part of my nature connection practice.
Mm.
And it's something, because I'm always moving around and going to different countries, it's one of the first things I do wherever I am to get oriented to the land and the place that I'm in. Because I'll orient it to north, south, east, west, and then I'll do a gratitude to each of the directions and the elements. And it just really helps me feel connected to the place that I'm in. And so I was very happy to share that with your son. And also, I remembered that specific mandala because there was a woman that came by asking me what this was about. And it's interesting because I've had really interesting conversations with people who are curious, like, they see them on the beach and what are you doing? What is this about? This one woman I could tell was having a really hard time. She was walking around with the journal. She was very quiet. She could tell she was very emotional. And so I invited her to join me for that, the meditation that I was doing in each of the 4 directions. And yeah, she was very grateful to be part of that with me.
Wow. That is really cool. That is really, like, I think it's a more helpful kind of helping. Like what you're really doing is you're opening up a space and you're not trying to control what happens in it. You're letting someone, this is how I've come to think of when I'm coaching, right? The space that I open is just a safe place for somebody to say, this is what's happening. And it's not about me. A long time ago, I've been doing this now for 9 years. And when I first started, it was, or this kind of coaching anyway, like I've been doing for 9 years. And what I used to do is someone would ask me a question and I would give them an answer. Now I feel like it's less about that and much more about saying, what's going on, and just being a listener, I would say an objective listener.
Yeah. One of the nuns at Plum Village, so that's the Thich Nhat Hanh monastery. I spent 2 weeks at it in France. One of the nuns, I remember saying, listen like the soil receives the rain.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's beautiful. I wondered, I'm curious if you have felt that space as a like as a person who's received support and what that has felt like for you, if that makes any sense.
Interesting. It's I haven't talked about Plum Village with you much, but there was an exercise that we did called it was about communication with someone you're having an issue with.
Mm.
And we did a role playing, and so the process was the person that I was sharing with was this gentleman. I didn't know him. He was from Holland, and so there was like a language barrier, a bit of a language barrier. And I was wearing a mask because I was still recovering from COVID. So whenever I was indoors, I wasn't testing positive anymore. So the nun said I could come back into the monastery.
Yeah.
But I had to wear a mask indoors. So I'm wearing a mask and I'm doing this role playing exercise with this gentleman. His English is a little broken. He was a lovely man. And so the exercise was to pretend that person is the person that you're having the issue with or the challenge with. And so I was supposed to say to him what I would say to my person. First of all, these are all the things that I love and admire about you. And number one. Number two, and so the other person, they're just not supposed to talk. They're just listening 100%.
You have a beautiful smile right now.
It was incredible. I was in tears doing this with this person, and vice versa. The second thing was to share my regrets about the person. The third thing was to share, I'm going to cry even talking about this, the ways that that person had hurt me, how I was hurt, how I felt hurt by that person. And the fourth thing was what was the most optimistic outcome that I could envision.
Wow.
In the relationship. So here I am telling a stranger with a mask on, so he can't really even see any other than my eyes. And he was tearful and I was crying. It was so powerful. And then we reversed roles and he was speaking to me as though I was his mother.
Wow.
And again, I was in tears. He was like, it was so incredibly powerful. And that was pure 100%, nothing but listening.
Wow.
It was so powerful.
Wow.
Just just the expression on his face. He couldn't even see the expression on my face other than my eyes. Yeah, that was just, yeah. So that, when you talk about listening, it just showed how much can be achieved through just pure listening.
Wow. And I can see, and the feeling I'm having is that you came out of that just feeling so much better.
Yeah. Yeah. And so they said you could write this person a letter in your, like this person that, which I ended up doing. Or you can write the letter and not ever send it. But just the process of going through those 4 steps just gives you so much clarity about what the issue is and how you feel about it. You might not even ever have to talk to the person about it because you've worked through it all yourself. In a positive way,
Yeah. It sounds really similar to an exercise. So when I was 7, I was sexually abused in my own home. It was a bit of a date rape situation almost. And when I tried to talk about it years later with with my folks, And I've actually my mom and I have gotten to be really, really good about this again. And I actually have done entire sort of moth style stories about, storytelling about this. So, it's okay to share about it. But I think what's really interesting is I didn't understand the profound impact that would have on my growing up and on my family life. Even I put it away in my mind for years. Like I didn't, recall it or whatever. And my mom was right upstairs when it was happening. And then later when I tried to share about it, I received back like, you can't possibly have experienced that way. And, it's really interesting. What was coming up for me as I was listening to you was, there's a wonderful book called The Courage to Heal. And it's for any sort of sexual abuse or rape kind of situation. And I read that in college, and it was so, like, one of the things that they invite you to do is to write a letter to this person. You don't ever have to send it. For the first thing that they sort of helped me understand was, they will never admit to it. They'll never say, yes, I did this. They'll never. Right. So you can let that go. You get to deal with it how you deal with it. And writing a letter and putting those things down on paper, and then, it was really helpful in terms of letting it go. But then the other thing that part of this year of identity shifting for me has really been to understand, I did not understand how much hurt there still was about not being heard, about not being believed. And part of my growing this year was really about understanding that, like, they did what they did for their reasons. And it was the space to be able to talk about that to someone who's just listening, who has no, like, this isn't a 10-step process to get you anywhere. It's just a space. It's just a space for listening. It's really so special. And I mean, there was a moment earlier this year where I contemplated taking my own life. And I will say this, it was a question, an objective question from someone who could see my behavior, that helped me come back from that shifted from, like, I'm so caught up inside myself, to, like, what's a way that I could communicate and establish a kind of positive connection to resolve the situation. You know what I mean? To kind of get past this.
Yeah. My goodness. I'm glad you're here.
Me too. And I'm glad you're here.
Right. Yeah. You work through it.
Yeah.
It's hard, and it's like we were talking earlier, how in Buddhism, they say we cause our own suffering.
Yeah.
Cause our own suffering. You're replaying this in your mind, and it's caused trauma that is in you.
Yeah.
In your thought. And how do you release that? We cause our own suffering with our thoughts, but we can also heal our own suffering with our thoughts.
Yeah.
And the last retreat I did was I was asked to do forgiveness meditation, which in the first Vipassana, I went straight in. I was like on a fast track, and I've progressed very quickly in my meditation practice. The second one, I thought, I'm just going to pick up where I left off and just go deeper. But I had to take a step back and do forgiveness meditation, because there I was holding on to so much resentment and anger. And what was so interesting about that, I mean, I was kind of disappointed that I was like, oh, really?
Yes. Like, I got to go through this.
Yeah. But it was incredible, because the things I thought I was holding on to were not even those things. And in the forgiveness meditation taught in this tradition, it's, I forgive myself.
Yeah.
I forgive myself for not understanding.
Yeah.
I forgive myself for not understanding. And then you just sit with that. And then things start to arise about the things that you're holding on to. And the things that came up, I was like, what? Are you kidding me? And I talked to my teacher because every day we'd have an interview. And I said, I'm really surprised that this came up. Had no idea it was about this. I thought it was about this. I thought this is what I was angry about, but it was about this. And they take your phones at the beginning of the retreat. I said, I'm so glad you took my phone because I would have been calling these people at 3 a.m. in tears, begging, like apologizing, getting their forgiveness. And I said to him, like, so he said, you're clearing old karma.
Yeah.
When this stuff comes up and you see it, and you see the pain it's caused you, or you see the pain you've caused someone else, that is, you have cleared your karma. You feel bad about it. You have this reaction to it. You've cleared the karma. I said, should I call these people? And it's like, no, it's done. You've cleared it.
Yeah.
I was like, that's so cool.
Yeah. You can just let it go. Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
It was like, anyway, it was just, and I won't get into like what it was all about, but it was seated meditation, and then you would take a break and you do walking meditation. And with each step, you would say, I forgive you.
Wow.
You forgive me.
Wow.
I forgive you. And I would do that for like an hour outside. There was a beautiful forest where this retreat was being held. And I found a labyrinth, and I would walk the labyrinth, and I would have these incredible insights about just stuff. Like, it was really powerful. It was really powerful. So this is how, I'm beginning to understand. You cause your own suffering with just holding all of this stuff. Sometimes you don't even know it's there. Sometimes I believe it's also even past life stuff. I think the deeper you go into this, there's always more karma to clear. You're never done in this lifetime.
Yeah.
You just keep going deeper and deeper and deeper into layers and layers and layers. But you feel lighter and lighter and lighter as you clear it. Yeah.
It's like a journey on I see my life as like a journey on a spiral. And so like sometimes you'll come back to these things on the spiral, but you're at a different place in your thinking and yourself. And to be so, I think as we're kind of coming to the end of our conversation, I feel so much gratitude and inspiration for you. Like and I think the courage to be able to open up to that is really like, I'm just celebrating you for that. And also that you would bring that to us, that you would go really deep and talk about these really close to the heart things with us. I'm really, really grateful for you, Monique. Thank you.
Oh, I'm grateful for you. I'm glad you're here. And I really love every conversation that we have. Is so delightful, enlightening, inspiring, fun.
Fun. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Is there anything that you'd like to wrap up on? Is there anything that that's coming up for you that we haven't touched on yet, or that you want to, highlight as we're wrapping up?
No, I think we covered a lot of territory. I mean, I didn't know where we were going to go with the conversation. So I think that it's been delightful, and yeah, I don't have anything to add.
Yeah. Those are my favorite kind of conversations, where you start out with a bit of a curiosity or a direction, and then like you end up in such cool places. Well, thank you so very much for being with us today, for being with me personally today. yeah, keep shining that light. It means a lot.
Thank you. Thank you. And you too, Kay.
Yeah.
Mwah.
If you are listening or watching and you are inspired to connect with Monique, you can do that at flourishment.global or in Instagram, which is it flourishment? Where are you on Instagram?
I have two accounts. I have flourishment.collective,
Yeah.
which is about kind of where I am traveling, interesting people I meet along the way. And then I have the Forest Whisperer, which is really mostly about nature connection and my forest therapy work.
Cool. And we didn't even talk about that today. Oh my gosh, you're gonna have to be a returning guest, I think. It would be such fun to have another conversation just about that. Like, so cool. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to link to these 3 places so that folks can find you and connect with you. And yeah, I always like to end each episode with a huge thanks to our producer. He's not just our producer. And to be on this journey with him and to see where his inspiration is taking him is such a joy and such fun. He is a photographer. He is a fisherman. He is an awesome audio knowledgeable dude. And he is also the 26th-time winner of the Husband of the Year award. That's Benjamin Culp. Thank you, my darling, for all that you do and all that you are.
Thank you, Benjamin.
And thank you for listening and for being here with us. We will see you next time.